Today's webinar is hosted by SecureDocs and presented by Albert Oaten, our VP of Market Development. So before we jump into things, I'd like to introduce Albert.
Hi, everybody.
Albert
Can you hear me?
is the VP of Market Development here at SecureDocs. He works with the team to identify new markets and market entry strategies. In his role, Albert speaks at association and industry seminars and events, mentors the sales team, and helps lead expansion into new markets. Before joining SecureDocs, Albert held a number of senior positions at Expert City and Citrix Online, one of the fastest growing divisions of Citrix Systems. At Citrix Online, Albert helped define and sell remote access and support products that now have annual sales revenues exceeding $240 million. He managed a mid-market sales team and then became the Senior Director of Inside Sales. In this role, Albert grew the inside sales organization from 5 team members to over 50, with managers in multiple locations. Prior to Citrix Online, Albert held finance and field marketing positions at American Express. Albert graduated from Stanford University and has an MBA with honors from Goethe School of Business at Emory University. Albert, thank you so much for presenting for us today, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you guys all for your time and coming in to visit and hopefully learn a little bit about different use cases for Dropbox and for virtual data rooms. What I wanted to start off with is just make sure everybody is aware that I'm not here to tell you that one solution is better than the other. When I look at collaboration solutions like Dropbox and when I look at virtual data room solutions like SecureDocs, it really has to do with the appropriate use case. So saying one is better than the other is like saying a sedan is better than a truck. The needs, the requirements that you have may dictate that you need a truck versus a sedan. And so today what we're going to do is I'd like to make this as educational as possible and help orient people towards the right solution based on their needs. So what we're going to talk about right now is Dropbox versus virtual data rooms. And what Dropbox really represents is a whole slew of different types of collaboration solutions. And then I'm going to use SecureDocs, which is our product, which is a virtual data room. These are 2 different type solutions, and they have 2 different type purposes. So our objective today is to evaluate which one is the best fit for your needs. And again, this doesn't say that one is better than the other. It really depends on the context in which you're using them. So I'm going to go through a brief description of both services, some of the core differences, some very hopefully tactical use case examples, give you guidance in terms of determining which solution is appropriate for you and your business, and then also obviously provide you some pricing information so you understand how that works as well. But again, I want to emphasize this is not a time where I'm going to sit here and tell you that Dropbox is a terrible solution. It's not. It's a great solution. It just depends on applying a really good solution to the right situation, and the same applies for virtual data rooms. Okay, so that takes us to our first polling question, which will help me in terms of guiding the rest of the presentation.
I'll go ahead and get the first poll launched, just so we all see. So the first question is, do you currently use Dropbox for business purposes? So does you or your company use it for work? So please select one of the following, yes or no. And this will just give us an idea of who is out here in attendance. I'm going to give it just a couple more seconds. Okay. So it looks like 47% of attendees do currently use Dropbox for business purposes in their company, and 53% do not. What is your take on that, Albert?
Wow, actually, that's sort of surprising. I thought it would actually be much higher. That's very interesting. Great. So it's very common in Dropbox, as you know, it's moving more and more into businesses. But I really anticipated that would be a little bit higher.
Hold on one moment, Albert. I'm sorry to interrupt you quickly. Your voice is a little garbled. Can you try adjusting your headset?
Can you hear me better now?
It's still a little garbled. Are you on? Here, we'll continue talking and I'll go ahead and see if we can solve the problem.
Okay. Can you guys hear me now okay? If you can hear me okay right now.
I can hear you, it's a little garbled.
Still, okay, hold on one second.
Let me
try and, oh, you can right now?
Yes.
Okay. So let's take a look. We're going to go through a very brief description of where Dropbox makes sense. And I'm going to use a couple of analogies to help make it really clear. So when I think of Dropbox, when you think of it as a collaboration solution, Dropbox is like a digital Xerox copier. So you know, Xerox in the analog world is where you just make copies of paper. Dropbox makes copies of documents that can be electronically delivered. So when you actually create a Dropbox account, not only does it go on your work computer, but it can also immediately be synced to your home computer and to the various devices you have, whether they be iPad or iPhone. And Laura, just a quick sound check. Do I still sound okay?
You sound great now. Whatever switch you made really helped.
Okay. So what's great about this is that you can also extend this ability to share these documents and copy them to other departments. So you see that Dropbox has this ability. You can see here I've got, it looks a little bit complicated, but long story short, you can share folders and various documents with other people within the company. So think about working with your sales department. You can share your entire Dropbox or part of your Dropbox over to the sales department. And any documents that they update will actually be automatically updated into your Dropbox and all your devices so they'd be synced. So in a way, this is like the Xerox copier making a digital copy of the documents. And then you have a UPS truck running back and forth between them. So every time there's an update, it runs back and forth in between the two Dropbox accounts and make sure that everybody's working on the appropriate version. And what's great is that sales now can extend it to product and do the same thing. And then product can actually extend it. And now you've got a lot of people in the company using different Dropbox accounts, and they can share different files, and they can collaborate. And so you have people in sales, product, finance, consultants, consultant ones, maybe, or consultant two outside the company that can collaborate on these documents. And now you have a bunch of UPS trucks running all over the place, making sure that everybody has an updated version of what anybody updated with regards to a document that someone was working on. So this actually has huge benefits, right? So the collaboration benefits, it increases productivity tremendously. There's anywhere, anytime access. It allows you to edit documents locally and updates made to all Dropbox user files. So you know, if you have documents that are being shared between sales, product, finance, and maybe outside consultants, everybody can see these documents and they can get on the same page, make sure they're working on the same version. It allows for large file transfer and backup. And so this has gigantic productivity benefits for everybody, this ability to kind of share and edit together. Okay, so where do some of the challenges potentially come? This is where you say, like, you know, is this the right solution for the documents that you're using and in the company? Let me talk a little bit, just real briefly, about the pricing. Some other attractive things about Dropbox: if you're using the consumer version, then the first 2 gigabytes of these files is free. I mean, it's hard to argue with 0 and get a lot of productivity benefits. If you go above that, it's $99 for 100 gigabytes. There is now, they've recently rolled out a business or team edition. They charge you $795 for 5 users. Each additional user would be $125 a year. So you can see, you know, if you had a company of 10 or 15 or 20 people that are using it, then it would probably be around $3,000. But the productivity benefits of this, again, are really, really gigantic and very helpful. Okay, so the challenges start occurring with the very fact that underlying Dropbox is this notion of collaboration. It's a great tool for sharing and editing very quickly with other people. The challenge comes is that you can't necessarily always control where these documents and where these things go. So imagine someone in the sales department saying, hey, this is really helpful. I'm going to share it with some other people, maybe external, to take a look at this so that maybe you can find me some guidance. And maybe that's okay. But what could also happen is that maybe the consultants actually find that the documents and some of the things you have are kind of interesting, and they want to use it or help some of their clients, and they provide some of their clients potentially outside your company examples of how they could do things. And again, the consultants may not be doing anything devious or inappropriate, trying to purposely hurt your company. To the contrary, they may be trying to help other companies by giving them an example of some of the good work that you're doing. And they don't realize that what they've really done is potentially damage your company by sharing that information. And you can imagine in another circumstance where you're no longer working just with internal parties, but also external parties. So imagine that now it's not the sales department you're sharing information with, but a potential investor, or it's an angel investor that you've shared information with, or that you've got employees that have left the company and gone to competitors, and they took their Dropbox accounts and some of the documents that were in there with them. Or it could be your supplier, a manufacturer of some of your stuff, that has begun to share this information or potentially use it inappropriately. Or it could, again, be another consultant. So now you have actually quite a few of your documents that have replicated and been copied and UPS'd to a lot of different external parties, and even having people from internal take your documents somewhere where maybe they shouldn't have gone. Now this does become a little more problematic and can put your company and some of the information you have at risk. And again, I want to emphasize that this sharing frequently, I would say, typically, sharing isn't done with malicious intent. Sometimes it's done, on the contrary, with the desire to help another party. So a potential investor says, this is really interesting information about what this company is doing. It's amazing.
So you can imagine that when you have this information, did we go through this, where you have the confidential information?
I did not hear that part.
Okay. So this is information that you wouldn't necessarily want shared with outside parties. So it has intellectual property, client contracts, revenue by product, margin by product, client list with revenue, supplier lists with margins, capitalization table, employee agreements, client bank, and tax ID information. This is information that is not meant for public consumption. It's not even information that's meant for everybody within the company. But when you put it into Dropbox, once you've done that, then you're effectively making a number of Xerox copies, digital copies, that the UPS truck runs around to all the different Dropbox providers that have access to that. And so effectively all this confidential information can actually get spread pretty quickly. And what's worse or more troubling potentially is that it can actually be shared by the outside parties or even employees who leave to go to competitors. Okay? And again, what I want to emphasize is that typically the confidential information that's leaked, it's not leaked by people that want to hurt your company. It's leaked by people that want to help somebody else. So sometimes a potential investor or an angel investor will share information they shouldn't with an outside party without realizing by sharing that information they've shared some very sensitive information about your company. But in their mind, all they were really doing was helping someone else. And yet the damage has been done. Laura, just a quick check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're good now.
Okay, thank you. So this is why when they've done surveys of companies, 80% of people that are in kind of the IT space said they are actually more concerned with internal security threats than even external hacking attacks. This kind of data leakage from the inside out is of paramount concern to them. And it was actually borne out by the Poneman Institute, which, when they surveyed ex-employees, found that 59% of ex-employees admit to stealing confidential company information, such as customer contact lists. And furthermore, when you share your information, Dropbox, with external parties, what you're doing is you're extending your security perimeter. You don't actually know the security that is around your law firm or your auditing firm or your consultant. You may know a lot about the security around your company, but you don't know about the security around theirs. And when you do look at external threats, what you're finding are things like you would think a law firm would be very secure, but in fact they are a high-value target for hackers, for sovereign nations like China, because they contain so much sensitive information about companies and intellectual property, even intellectual property that hasn't been filed yet. So this is an example. This was a report that came out, and I think this is actually the New York Times, and the thing that caught me about it was when you listen to this is, in what has become an all too familiar refrain, a major New York law firm was recently informed by the FBI that all of the firm's client files had been discovered on a server in a foreign country. So there's two aspects of this that are troubling. One is that all of the firm's client files have been discovered on a server in a foreign country, and an all too familiar refrain. So in this case, I want to be clear. This was not something that Dropbox facilitated. What I'm sharing with you, though, is that when you share Dropbox, when you share files with other companies, you're assuming that their security protocols are similar or as good as yours, and that is not always the case. Okay.